In this video, we're going to look at doing some regression analysis and creating some scatter plots for some data. We're using the same data set, CO2 emissions for Canada and China. And this particular one happens to be the data for tons per person or per capita CO2 emissions. You notice I just added a title on here. The other thing that I forgot to mention when downloading these data is you can also go to this Gapminder website, and on this bar, if we do a search for CO2 emissions, this tons per person, if I look at this little magnifying glass, what this does is it opens up a site with the data, but it also has available to me more information which I would need for a report to indicate where the data came from. So to reference, I can use the original website as a reference, but then I can also include some of the information about the data source. If I need to talk about how the data was collected or anything like that, calculation methods, any of the background information, that's all right here. I need to definitely make sure I take this information and I put it within my report. Also other things in here potentially that might be of use. Okay, so make a note, you need to get that background information for your project. So back here, I could also put in this title, I can put a link just to that web address so I have it for later for reference. Okay, so on to creating a scatter plot. What I'm going to do is just highlight, so I can either hold down the shift key, highlight, and down arrow. I'm going to highlight all of my data here. Oh, there's a graph already created. I'm just going to redo this though. I'm going to highlight all of that data. And then what I can do is over here in this bar, this is an insert chart. So I'm going to click insert chart. A new chart will show up. I'll just delete that old one that happened to still be there. So this chart, you'll notice right away, it creates a chart, has lines with the data on it. It's not a scatter plot though, and I want to definitely use a scatter plot. I'm just going to put this up higher. So it's up at the top of my page here. I can look at it. If I click on this, there's a bunch of chart editor stuff that shows up. So I can do a setup. Instead of a line chart, I want a scatter plot. So I'm going to click down here under the setup, and I'm going to go to scatter plot right there, scatter plot. Okay, you'll notice it gives me my year here at the bottom. No titles right now on here. It does indicate, gives me a Legend Canada title. It gives me a little title at the top here that it's made up. I want to change all of those things. Before I do that, you'll notice that in here has a bunch of different things. If I want to change some things, it's saying use row 2 as headers. Because I did highlight over here, I highlighted the headers. So yes, I wanted to use those as headers. If I didn't, I would click that off. Then it doesn't actually give me any of my titles on there. So it's really useful to have those things on. Next thing I want to do is just customize some things. Okay, I'm going to change a bit of the stuff here. In particular, if I look at my series, this is the data itself. I can on here add a trend line. Look at that. I can put in my lines of best fit just by clicking that trend line. Right now it's a linear, so a straight line of best fit. I want to choose something else, so an exponential line of best fit. Doesn't look much different, but I could put it on. I could choose a polynomial, and that would be a quadratic. Polynomial, degree 2 means x squared. There's my quadratic. You'll see that it's getting a curve over here. Okay. If I also want to show my r squared value, I can do that. You'll notice the r squared values show up at the top. I could also customize, and I can also say use the equation. So now the equation and the r squared show up there for us to use. Really helpful. I can play, I'm going to just put this back to linear right now. But it allows me, definitely, I want to put on those r squareds, maybe the equation as well, so that I can do a comparison. See here, r squared for Canada, obviously very low. Data seems to be up and down. It's not really following that line. Okay, so I might play with that a little bit to see what is my linear versus quadratic or exponential, which seems to be the best line of best fit. If I want the line to be darker, obviously I can make it darker, changing the opacity there. Okay, I can change the thickness of the line, etc. Also on here, I want to change the title and axes. So instead of Canada and China, I'm going to have a very detailed thing. per capita CO2 emissions in metric tons for Canada and China. I might change the colors, change the formatting, etc. I can also here chart subtitle, my horizontal axis title, my vertical axis title. I want to make sure for sure I have those titles on there with detail and units. Okay, go back to my website to find out what all of that information is. Also, I can change my vertical axes if I want different labels, etc. I can change those on here, horizontal, etc. Okay, my legend here, right now the position is auto. If I want, I can change it to the right, have my legend over there, it looks better. Inside, I can adjust it however I want. Okay, but there you go. Thanks for watching.